So it's not New Bike Day, but it is New Bike Brand Day. I'm gonna go and check out what, for all intents and purposes, is a brand new brand. They've been around for a year and a half. We're down at the Clubhouse on Putney Riverside, and we're gonna go and check out the Raptor RS1. Guys, welcome back to the What Life. Let's roll. So you might have seen or heard about the Clubhouse, which is effectively a bike/coffee shop down on Putney Riverside. But the thing that you might not know is that they actually have their own bike brand that's been around for about 20 months. There are a few reasons that I like it down here. One, for the very simple reason that they have good bike storage, but also if you are worried about your bike being out on Putney Riverside, they have locks that you can just pick up and lock your bike up, which I think is a really nice addition. So while I'm here, I'm going to sit down, grab a coffee, and I will talk you through their RS1. Now, Raptor have a couple of different frames. Obviously, they have gravel bikes this side, road bikes down the other side, and they have a new frame coming out in a month or two. But the one we're going to focus on today is the RS1. So the RS1 is their version of an aero race bike, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. So we've just grabbed a coffee in the Clubhouse, and this is effectively the home and HQ for Raptor bikes as well. Now let me just fill you in. The Clubhouse itself has only been open for about a month and a bit, and we're down on Putney Riverside. Raptor as a brand itself have been around for, like I said, maybe a year and a half, and they're going into kind of like almost their 2-year period. So they are still very much relatively new to the industry, and I'm going to give you a rundown on the RS1, which I said is their aero bike, and you can see some of the features on it that just kind of make it a bit more standout. Now, having chatted to the one of the owners and the people involved here, if you get a bike from Raptor and you are within the local area, you are very much part of the family. You can literally come to the coffee shop where you bought the bike. The guy that built the bike that you bought will be here because they are built by 2 guys here. Everyone involved is basically, you can come in on a Saturday and meet the person who started the brand, the person that built your bike, and every kind of thing in between. So that gives you an idea of kind of who they are as a brand, is that they've started out and their intention is to grow and just make, I would probably say, bikes of a certain value that are kind of like, you know, we are Southwest London, SW London, stone's throw from kind of the likes of Fulham. So they're definitely not cheap bikes, but they are kind of like not kind of trying to compete with the SL8s and the Trek Madones of this world. Okay, some more background for you. The frames themselves are built in Shimano, which is where, you know, if you are within the bike industry, you will understand that the majority of world-class frames are built within the same area. The RS1 is built with, you know, mostly kind of T1000 carbon fiber, and that, you know, there are parts that are T1100, there are parts that are T900. So in general, if you are buying a bike that's made out of T1000 carbon fiber, you are basically buying into a very kind of high quality building material, and that's definitely a good place to start. Okay, so if you want to get basically an entry-level Shimano 105 Raptor RS1, you are looking at just a nudge over £4,000. I think it's like 4,100 and something pounds. And then obviously you go right up to the kind of Shimano Ultegra and Dura Ace versions, which kind of then you're starting to nudge the £8,000. And you can kind of see the way that the pricing point works. But ultimately, the top end, you're looking at just over £8,000, and then the kind of entry level for the race version, you're looking at kind of £4,100, £4,200. So again, you know, these are not cheap bikes, but they are kind of within that kind of reasonable bracket. Now, here's some interesting stuff. Obviously, the frame has been designed and created by the guys here at the Clubhouse who have started the brand. they are using a Fastsport integrated cockpit on the front of your bike, and then you do get various choices when it comes to wheels that you want to put on to kind of build your own bike. What you can do, as you see behind me, you have all the frames on the wall, so you can just buy a frame set and you could build the bike yourself. But most people tend to kind of buy it as a complete bike, in which case they will build it for you. And the nice thing is that you then get to specify things. Do you want a 40mm bars? Do you want 38mm bars? What kind of stem length do you want? All those kind of things, your crank lengths. All those kind of things are kind of part of the Raptor buying experience, because ultimately this is where it all happens, and this is where you'd be collecting and buying your bike from, and they will build it to effectively your spec. Let me just find out what bottom bracket is. So the RS1 has a BB86 bottom bracket, but one of the key features about the frame itself is you can see how much it's reinforced within that bottom bracket area. And I don't want to throw any names around, but it has that kind of Ostro-Vam feel to it, certainly with the kind of size, strength and integrity of the bottom bracket. Now the interesting thing is that they tend to sell these bikes with Shimano group sets, for that simple reason that you guys will know is if you are going to use a SRAM group set, you end up rolling with a dub, and then the dub does not lend itself particularly kindly when it comes to bearings and the bottom bracket. So building it with a Shimano group set gives you kind of more chance of creating a press fit bottom bracket that is not going to squeak, is going to be very functional, and you can replace the bearings, and the bearings themselves are a bit more kind of functional because they have a slightly larger diameter. Guys, I think that's correct. In fact, you know what I mean anyway. And I also know that they do like to use the Hambini bottom bracket when they can, but obviously that is a 300 odd quid bottom bracket that then goes into your bike. Part of the reason they did that though is so that obviously you can then just replace the bearings yourself, or if you need like bike maintenance and you are somewhere, it's not specialist equipment. So even though it is a press fit, you can put a C-Bear or a Hambini bottom bracket in, and then obviously the parts are actually kind of very accessible. You can get them yourselves and you can swap out bearings when they get old, which is obviously a bit of a bonus. And I will add that I am running a BB86 on my Windspace, and now that I've kind of tightened everything up, it is running beautifully yet again, and I've done maybe 3,000 miles on it so far. The other thing worth pointing out when you are running a Shimano group set is that obviously you've got to put the battery somewhere for a Di2, and then in this case that is going to go in the bottom of the seat tube. So it kind of takes that same approach as a lot of other bike companies are, or frame building companies are. What they do like to do is offer you the frame and then basically just sell you on the package of how you want to put it together, and then the different components, whether you were going to use a Shimano wheel or maybe a Fast Sports wheel, will basically just alter the cost of what you're going to end up paying for the bike. But as I said, because it is kind of that bespoke approach and it's a small company, you can just pick and choose everything that you want for your specific needs, which kind of really makes a nice kind of buying environment. Plus you get to come back and have coffee and show your mates basically where you got your bike and where your bike was actually basically pretty much born. Right, seeing as we are talking about bikes and we're talking about frames, let's talk numbers. And I'm going to have to just go and have a look and see how much these frames weigh. So this bike behind me, which is the RS1, which is just the frame and no fork or anything in it, BB86 bottom bracket, is a size 56 and it is 1,176 grams. If I can grab a scale of one of the other guys, if they have one here, I will try and weigh one of them once they're fully built up so you can get an idea of kind of what you're dealing with in terms of actual finished bike weight. One of the standout features for me that I actually really like about the design of the bike is the seat stays and the way that the seat stay is kind of shaped to look a bit more aerodynamic, and I'm sure that has some sort of implication in terms of kind of what savings, etc., etc. But for me personally, I do like a bike that is well styled, and I think that's like a nice little feature. Huh? Yeah, what do you reckon a full build is? Weight-wise, we are going to weigh a frame. I got one of the mechanics here. This is the nice thing, is that all the bikes are literally built here. So we're basically weighing a 56 with Shimano Ultegra, full build, bottle cages, and with look, pedals. Yeah, so I think that's a really good weight for a bike that's got pedals on, bottle cages, reasonable stack on it. You're running on the Fast Sport 40mm rims, and you've got the Ultegra group set. That's kind of like a nice build coming in at basically 8 kg bang on. That's pretty good. I mean, that's going well. So obviously I haven't had the chance to ride one of these bikes, and that's hopefully something that I might get to do a bit further down the line if we can just develop and grow a bit of a friendship with these guys, which it seems like a really easy thing to do because the Clubhouse as a location is it's really cool. A little workshop, coffee, and effectively a bike store. So if you know me, you know that I am a big fan of having a bike that other people kind of don't have, that's not really kind of seen very often. And that's one of the nice things about kind of working or investing in a bike brand that is reasonably young. You get to have a bike that other people haven't seen. You get to have a very uniquely created bike. I think that stands for a lot. And that's exactly the reason why, I actually quite like building my own bikes, because I get to make it as kind of personal and specific to me as I want. And that's definitely something you're going to get with the Raptor brand. So, it's very easy to see a lot of new brands or a lot of brands coming into the bike market, but the ones that kind of have personality and have their own concept, I think are just going to be the ones that are going to be here to stay. So hopefully at some stage I'll get the chance to take one out for a ride, give you a bit of a feedback from that perspective. But I just quite simply thought that after popping in here on the weekend after a ride, I'd come and just let you know about this bike brand, the fact that they're building bikes and have their own frames created for them, and just kind of share that story with you a little bit, because this really is not just a little coffee shop, but also it is the home of an actual bike brand, which, guys, I think is very, very cool. It's not. Give me the rundown. Same BB86 bottom bracket.
Yeah. So the idea really was to have a bike that we'd be able to offer without going crazy and offering sort of a range where we've just got hundreds and hundreds of bikes, because at our size, sort of stocking the minimum order quantities that we have to go to the factories for is pretty challenging. I mean, we're still even for a tiny manufacturer like us, we're still holding hundreds of frames, which is just managing that cash flow as a small business in a relatively challenging sort of like cycling industry market is pretty wild. Luckily we have sort of an amazing group of investors who are sort of very understanding. But the idea was to have as few bikes as possible, but to cover the whole range of cyclists. So really we just thought that's 4 bikes. So it's a full-on race bike. It's a slightly sort of slacker, still aero, but slightly sort of not quite so aero focused.
Okay.
And then there's an endurance bike, which is sort of more this type of more traditional geometry, relatively relaxed, that you can build up to be quite a lightweight frame if you wanted to sort of take it to the mountains. But again, like I was saying, I mean, the longest climb in the UK is 5 minutes up Box Hill. Well, when I say UK,
reachable from here.
That's reachable from where we live, and our customers are so local. Most of the people who come to us are within, I reckon, 2 kilometres. I mean, the further, in terms of bikes that we've sold, the furthest bike we've ever sold is Bristol. Because most people, what they want is they want to come in, they want to be able to bring the bike back, they want to sort of go for a ride, they want to bring their mates down and have a coffee. So that sort of community is what we're trying to build. So the climb bike, it was sort of originally envisaged that we would be able to build sort of the dream was to build a super lightweight version with sort of Meilensteins and to really go wild and make it sort of 5.5 kilos, but we just haven't found the demand for it. And then the gravel bike, which is really, we call it the gravel bike, but it's really more all road, which is sort of where everything seems to be going. Essentially, it's an aero road bike with a lot more. It's again a lot slacker geometry than a normal aero road bike.
And just like good tyre clearance on it, so that if you wanted to,
45 mil tyre clearance. So it generally, I know there's that whole misnomer of like one bike to do it all, but it's not far off that. I mean, it doesn't have sort of all the pannier attachments, so it's not like you're not going to go cycle touring for days and days and days necessarily with it, because it's just, that's not what it's designed for. It's an aero, nice looking road bike that's got you could put a 32mm road tyre on it, or you could put a 45mm gravel tyre on it. So you generally could use it for your average rider. You can pretty much use it for most things. So those are the 4 frames really. So that was the idea.
This is gorgeous, and this is I love the styling on this. Like
yeah, this is another Fact Creations. So whenever we want something really special, we do a lot with Ali at Fact Creations. So I mean, the paint jobs that are coming out of the factories in Taiwan and China are mind-blowing. The original plan was to be a direct-to-consumer bike brand, like a Canyon type concept, because it would allow us to keep the overheads down and sort of sell a bike very cost effectively. But what rapidly became clear is that really what people wanted and valued was the fact that they could come down, have a chat, specify things, say actually could I have a 38 centimetre wide bar, or 30, can I change all these things? And it was really that personal interaction that they valued. So then it became very clear very quickly that we needed to have a shop, because people wanted that experience, they wanted to come in and chat. And then the original plan was to have a shop when we did a bit of coffee. Now we're doing coffee and we also sell some bikes. So it's become very, very coffee and sort of community focused. I mean, we've served 4,000 coffees in the last 3 weeks since we opened. So that's sort of testament to, and it's sort of building that community, and then hopefully through that community and adding in some runs and some rides, hopefully people sort of like that, and will eventually sort of start selling small bikes, which is great.
So that was Tris, who is the owner of the brand. So it was great to get all the info from him, literally the horse's mouth. Guys, that is the end of that one. I'm going to wrap it up there. Do pop down to Putney Riverside if you want to come check out a Raptor. They have a size 54 and a 56 that you can take out for a ride if you are interested in kind of purchasing one. And obviously Richmond Park is like a stone's throw from here, and you can just do a few laps and see how it feels for yourself. And I will be doing that again on another time. Guys, thanks so much for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do like and subscribe if you are interested, and I will see you on another